Thank you for taking a seat with the chairman. Welcome to Chairman of the Board.
I bet the board is spelled B-O-R-E-D.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Chairman of the Board podcast. I'm very excited to have on my very first episode my good friend Ryan, who I've known since 7th grade. I'm glad you could be here for my very first one, dude.
Thank you for inviting
I'll
me.
be the first guest on yours as well. I love your I Am Groot hat.
Thank you.
Which leads into my very first question on the breaking news today of what happened, which is that Gina Carano, who is the actress in The Mandalorian and was an employee of Disney Plus, was fired because she made some tweets comparing what happened in Germany to the Jews, the persecution of the Jews, to what is going on now to conservatives in America, and how that neighbors were being pinned against each other in Germany when they really should have been a unified country. And that's kind of where Hitler went wrong, is he divided his country, right? Because nationalism is good, being all one people, but targeting certain groups based on a trait or religion or whatever is bad. So she had a point there, in my opinion. And a lot of people are, trending on Twitter, like cancel Disney Plus, boycotting it and all that stuff, and taking a stand. And I'm curious, as a big of Marvel fan as you are, as you can tell by your little I Am Groot hat, would you like to take a stand against Disney, or would you still give them money?
Well, I'm personally gonna still give them money because if these were people that are recently like just people who are subscribing to Disney Plus and all of that, I totally get it. But from my standpoint, I've been a huge Disney guy since I was like a baby. I grew up on movies like Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, like all those Disney animated movies. I went to Disneyland every year when I was younger. It's just Disney was a part of my blood at that point, and then Disney bought Marvel, and I was a huge Marvel fan, and then that just fed more into it. But I can understand why, because when I think about this topic, I'm a huge sports guy, and one of the greatest basketball players ever, his name is Michael Jordan, and the reason why people don't hail him as the GOAT compared to LeBron is because he doesn't speak up about enough issues like racial injustice like that when he was playing. But he had a famous line back then saying Republicans buy sneakers too. So I can understand that, but at the same time, it's like Jewish people also buy Disney Plus. How do you think a person of their, because that's one of the most sensitive topics, probably other than slavery and racial injustice, you got the Holocaust like right
There's
under
all
that.
of
Like
that,
that's
right.
as 1B. So when people talk about that, like that's people like, oh, she said that, hey, like if I'm Jewish, like I would be pretty upset about that.
But people
But I
have
can
been
see why
contrasting, like Ben Shapiro, who is Jewish.
Oh, yeah.
People like him have been contrasting how Pedro Pascal, who actually plays the Mandalorian in the show The Mandalorian, a couple months before had tweeted like a comparison of the migrant cages, like, in the immigration process, how they have like cages or whatever, which Obama built. But anyways, like he was comparing those cages to the Holocaust and what Hitler did to the Jews. And there was no repercussion for him comparing to the United States government and the persecution of Jews there, but there is for Gina because she's on a different team, I guess. So it's the double standard that people are angry with. And a lot of Jewish people like Ben Shapiro are saying like, no, this is true though. There's a lot of Republican Jewish people and we feel that we're being persecuted. It's not about, she's just making the comparison. In that case, Jews are being targeted. In this case, in America, people with conservative tendencies are being targeted and taken off of social media, as we saw the president of the United States be banned from all these platforms all at once on the same day. So that's a pretty big message. And people are like, we're not going to allow you to do this and silence us and separate us from everyone else. Like, you cannot do this to 74, 75 million people, like half the country. And we shouldn't be, like, in my opinion, we shouldn't want to be separated. We should be together. Like, we're all, in my opinion, there are no Republicans and there are no Democrats. There's American citizens and there's a people that we have representing us. And if they don't represent us, then they need to be taken out of office. It's us versus them. They need to be working for the people, not the other way around. So personally, I wouldn't give Disney my money anymore because they're also supporting like the concentration camps in China, like in Mulan, Ryan. I don't know if you know this, but they
I
were.
haven't seen the movie Milan.
I haven't seen the movie Mulan either, but I know that they were working with like China and corporations in China who are actively like perpetrating these concentration camps. Is it the Uyghur Muslims or Uyghur Muslims, which are like 3 million people in these concentration camps, which is like the Holocaust, which is disgusting. So it's like, do you support a company that is actively supporting concentration camps? You know?
Well, no, I don't. Obviously, that's terrible.
Am I cornering you here?
Well, no, I mean
because you like Marvel and Disney?
It's hard because, like I said, it's just. And then here's the here's I always fall in the middle of things because I always feel like, and here's going back to the first part, how you don't want us to be separated, wants to be together. I can't remember if I was watching like a Twitch streamer or whatever I can't remember I was watching this, but like it was a guy, but he brought up a good point saying like nowadays if we argue about like topics, we use anger. We don't use empathy. We don't use understanding. We use anger.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's both sides. I think it's obviously more the left recently, but there's also people on the right who are who are not as bad or equally as bad as. So we can't say it's just the left. I personally think I'm not saying it's just the right. Like people blow out of proportion on the left side.
They say that the left, just people who tend to be more on the left, use more emotional reactions to rationalize their positions, and people on the right tend to be more logical in their reasoning. So when you had those two different kinds of brains trying to work on issues, especially over social media, that's where the clash is. And I think if you got most people in a room, they would actually agree over time. Like, you're way less confrontational in person usually than over Twitter. So that's where it all starts. And then that actually comes out in real life because that separation already happened online. You feel like all these people are against you when really we're just neighbors and we should all be together because we're the melting pot of the world, and that's why we're the best in the world.
Well, and we also should blame social media companies like Twitter for giving people to be able to talk, because it's like back in the 60s, there was no Twitter. If people wanted to have an argument, they'd talk about it in person. That's why we were much more united, because at the end of the day, I can understand. Like, I think there's a certain level of understanding. If we're face to face, we understand each other's emotions. We feed off of each other. Yeah, it may get a little violent in terms of our verbal language, but at the end of the day, who knows? Maybe we can walk out arm in arm saying, you know what? You could be a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but we're Americans. But now it's Twitter. People are hiding behind their phones and their computers, saying whatever the fuck they want on their, on their keyboard warriors. It's like the same thing in England. Like, I know you don't pay attention to soccer, but there is like these black soccer players getting racially abused on Twitter for not doing anything wrong. But imagine, like, it's still a problem. But you do think they're going to do it in person? No, they're not. Like, we got also these social media companies give these people a big platform to speak about it, but we don't do them a lot of face-to-face interaction anymore. Like, that's the problem, because we just stay home and we tweet. And
I mean, now it's being enforced that we stay home and can't meet in person. That's being enforced legally, which is even like amping up all the more hatred because you're forced to go online only. And when you're online, you actually feel, at least sometimes I feel, more alone online than I do when I go out into the world. Even though there's so many more voices that are active when you go online, it's just not the same. You feel more alone and more targeted. And a lot of the time you kind of are targeted by companies. Like, Twitter will, through an algorithm, show you more things you don't like and hate to get more interaction out of you, versus like TikTok is the opposite. And they both have their downfalls. Like, TikTok will show you things that you like over and over and over again, and it learns what you like through the algorithm, so you're more and more addicted to TikTok. Versus Twitter shows you more things that you will hate. That way you'll engage in a different way in anger.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's the problem.
So
Is I think that's the one key word here. If we want to explain about our political views and talking about it, is anger. We don't. We all we did people use is anger nowadays. Like they don't
yeah,
show any
when you're
understanding.
angry, you're not being logical or rational.
Um,
But the thing is, a
like
lot of people on the
it's
right are getting angry because they took it for so long. I mean, like in Portland, as you know, we had the whole city burned down, and people just had to take it. Small businesses had to just take it, you know. And a couple people go into the Capitol, and all 75 million people get blamed. They're like, "We didn't do anything." Like, you can't just oust us for doing nothing. You know, you literally let
yeah.
all
I
the
think
cities burn.
yeah. I think well, obviously we view the capital thing differently. You kind of feed it in a way as being patriotic, like how back then our the people took to capital because it was us.
Well, no,
I
I don't feel
well
that the actual rating of the Capitol was
yeah.
good. I
I
feel
don't
that
either. I
that
thought
people
those people
showing
should
their
have been jailed.
force around the Capitol saying,
Yeah.
just remember, this is supposed to represent the people, not just, you can't just serve yourselves here.
Yeah.
But them actually storming, and a lot of them were actually
Yeah.
Antifa and crazy Q people, and also some Trump supporters who were just let in. If you saw the videos, I mean, the
Yeah, like
guards just like let them in,
yeah,
which is
like
wrong.
like oh, like okay, like, we're just gonna stand here. The guys, like that's the thing. It's like I personally think the people that broke in should be like you're trespassing, like you're breaking in, you're breaking and entering. You should go to prison. But then now the media generate like like oh, so they broke in. Those people peacefully protesting on the streets. You're a part of that just
Yeah.
because you're near them. You're a part of it. You know,
Yeah, there was like
you're because
200,000 plus other people in the streets. They
that's
all
the
went
thing.
into, right? Like,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I don't, like whenever I watch the Capitol thing, I'm like, that's terrible. Like those people should be in jail. But again, the peaceful protesters who are voicing their opinions should not be categorized with them because they didn't do anything.
Again, same with BLM. Any peaceful people in BLM
Yeah,
were kind of like, hey, stop burning down buildings. You're ruining our message. But you can't control that, because everyone's an
no.
individual.
Well,
So
because you
their
look at
message got anything they had that was valid got
yeah,
ruined. I mean, they brought up a good point. I really think the beginning of BLM had a good point, saying
yeah,
police brutality is an issue. Let's address this. And
it
then
was
when
actually
I looked into it, I found out like they only get 6 months of training ever. That's it. And those are like the best academies. I'm like, it should be a big part of their job to have like de-escalation drills and learn how to work with citizens, and just instead of just being like us versus them again, should be like a cooperation.
what's actually funny is that going back to that, when we ever see these BLM protesting like catching like buildings on fire, do we see any like celebrities, athletes actually doing that? Like, I haven't because we go back to Portland when it was peaceful. You saw like Damian Lillard leading the peaceful protesting, but then when I got out of crazy, you just hear these crazy people. Like you don't like that's what I'm saying. Like there's a point where like the first week in Portland, you just see them walking down streets. Like, okay, wow, that's great, good. Good. I almost thought about doing it one time, and it was peaceful. The first week was just peaceful. That's all it was. You're just walking down streets in Portland chanting. That's all it was. And then
Hmm.
they went like, and then there was like these crazy people, 90 plus days. Let's just burn shit. Let's just throw
Well,
shit.
more
Like,
than anything, I blame the local government for not stopping it. Like
yeah,
there were black owned businesses that were being burned down by white kids screaming Black Lives Matter, which is the most, of course, ironic thing of all time. And the government, their one job, like the main job of government, is to keep you safe, foreign and domestically. And they just
yeah,
let businesses be burned down for no reason
yeah.
and looted and
Well, and
destroyed. It's
yeah,
disgusting.
yeah. Like there's a medium. Like we understand like that there's racial injustice in this country, but that doesn't mean you have the like you want to voice that doesn't mean you can go and burn down a building. Like that, how does that solve anything? You could like people could be trapped in that building now, and you could have killed them. But obviously, that won't matter because you want to voice Black Lives Matter. Like, there's
Yeah,
one
and
thing to
it's
doing it
sad. It's
peacefully.
turned into a completely different movement now. It's not even about that anymore. It's about almost a communist type movement, which is
Yeah,
honestly terrifying. It's awful. You know.
because like in the NFL they have painted Black Lives Matter on the sidelines. I don't see like that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. But it doesn't say Black Lives Matter in parentheses. You can burn down a building. That doesn't say that. It just says Black Lives Matter. Like that's always that's what it is. Like I think there's two types of Black Lives Matters here. People who actually want to voice a problem in this country, and there's people who just want to take the tag Black Lives Matter and just use it as an excuse to go do to literally do some really illegal crap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would be all for the Black Lives Matter thing if it didn't mean what it means now. Like now it just doesn't mean that anymore. Black Lives Matter is like it is actually the excuse to burn down buildings now. It's not what it originally was. So I'm not okay with it anymore at all.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
plus the whole thing of like Black Lives Matter, you know, it's like, yeah, of course, all lives matter. And the Black Lives Matter I understood was bringing attention to a specific issue of police brutality, which I agree with. And they felt disproportionately affected by police brutality, which I'm like, good, bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
there's
not to the
some
point where it's
racism
like,
on-
no,
yeah.
it doesn't. It's done. It's done.
And
It's
see,
something
the
completely
problem
different.
is, and the problem is, I don't think there'll be a point where we can rot out any other. Like, there's no way. I don't think we can. Which I would love there to be, but I don't think there'd be any way possible in the history of this planet would be able to fully like pull out racism. Like there's always going to be these certain few people who grew up and then they just and they just crazy and
Well,
they
the thing
like,
is, like, America is like the least racist country on earth for a reason, because everyone comes here of every ethnicity. We are the melting pot of the world, and we're the first country, right, to stop slavery. Like we're the first ones to. We are the most progressive country in the world.
we stopped slavery, but then we also had that thing where it was like, oh well, we stopped slavery, but you can't use the same bathroom as a white guy.
Well, yeah, the Jim Crow and
You can't-
segregation, which was
yeah, you
bad.
can't-
But I'm saying
yeah,
it was
you can't
all a
use the
road to
same-
progress, right? I mean, of course, none of it should ever happen.
It should have
But
been.
that's
It
the
should
thing;
have
it
sooner.
did
Yeah,
happen.
no,
but America got through it the fastest, and we've still
Yeah.
been making more strides to be better. And we give everyone a voice. Like no other country has a First Amendment. Not all men are created equal in other countries. That's what America is, and that's why a lot of black people, of course, love it here, because it's the best country on earth, and we should all be neighbors and brethren. But no, we're being labeled as Republicans, Democrats, socialists, communists. No, we're just all the same people. We're all American citizens.
Yeah.
We should all be on the same team together.
Yeah, there's definitely more work that can be done, but like I think both sides. One, we should fund more police. We should fund more training because obviously they ain't getting enough training. Literally, you get trained 6 months ever, and you get and that somehow gives them the permission to have a gun on their hip with only 6 months of training, not knowing exactly how to use that thing. And then also we
Right.
could also help as a country do a little more to help because it seems to be like white poverty is different than black poverty. Like it's kind of
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't think it should be racial. I think
No,
we
it
should
shouldn't.
invest in like Trump had that platinum plan, which was to invest in just historically disenfranchised areas, which are a lot historically black, but also white. Like any place that is just kind of run down, we should renovate. Because I mean, if there are our fellow citizens, why wouldn't we want them to live a better life, right? We should invest money in these forgotten places.
Yes,
And
I agree.
with
But
that.
that's what I was saying. Like I'm saying, like the difference is that there shouldn't be a difference. Like being white poverty, you somehow still have more than black poverty. Like there shouldn't be a white and a black. There should be you're an American. We'll help all of you. Like we shouldn't leave one race to the side and be like, "Sir, we're just gonna help our fellow white men first." We should help everyone. We should help
Yeah.
everyone
We
because
should
we're
give
all
everyone
Americans.
equal opportunities.
I
We
agree.
need to get everyone to the same level to bounce off
Yes.
of, right? Like there's a difference between equality and equity. Like equity is way different than equality. Like equality is starting here. Equity is making sure that I saw a good kind of construct of it. Like it showed like equality is like a tall guy looking over a fence, and then a shorter guy on a box looking over the fence at the same height. But equity is like moving the short guys standing on the box to look over the fence, but also the tall guys standing on a box looking over the fence. So the tall guy's way up here, and the short guy's still down lower.
Yeah.
So one is obviously making more sense than the other. But
Oh, yeah.
anyways, we got way more political
Yeah.
to start off
yeah.
the podcast, my first podcast ever. Like
Well,
we
but
were
we're
filming before, and then a friend joined the call, and we're like, we're filming a podcast. And it was much more light and nice, but then we restarted it, and it got a lot more
kinda-
political. So
But kind of to tie back into Marvel, it's also a theme for me where like we all go through our we'll obviously talk about like our favorite characters next, like why yours is so and so, and why mine's Iron Man. Like we don't have to say, we don't have to like
Mhm.
we don't have to, everyone knows my favorite's Iron Man. But like whenever we're down, whenever I'm personally down, I love watching Marvel. Marvel just puts me in this universe where like you live like it's not like you live it, but you experience it. You like
Mhm.
like even like it's crazy. Like Black Panther, I thought was one of my favorite Marvel movies. Just because the way they were able to make Wakanda so real in the movie, like we can talk about the villain, like his reasons why he was a villain, all that, but just the graphics, the visuals, like the way they made you to be able to be in Wakanda.
Well,
You see that's like that. I just being able to like be in that world, and like if
mhm.
I'm down, I can watch Iron Man 1, watch him kick ass, and I'm like, oh, I feel better now. Like Marvel's just been like a safe haven for me because like I love those movies. It just I can watch those forever. Like those are just
Well, the
my
thing is,
movies.
me too, and I love Marvel
Yeah.
and I love Star Wars. But the thing is, Disney bought up both of those franchises, and they've been kind of eroding them too, as you know, in the last trilogy for Star Wars. Most people can tell it's fucking shit. Like
Yeah,
they've been
like Finn.
destroying these
Oh god.
franchises we love. And the thing is, should we support Disney after they buy up the things we love and have greatly impacted our childhood and really how we? So I wanted to ask you about this, like who's your favorite character and how they impacted real life decisions in your life. But like, should you support a company that is eroding our favorite stories, storytellers, and characters?
See, I think that you have a stronger character than I do. I always think I have faith. Like I'm not saying you don't have faith. I just am more like I have faith that this somehow that like Mandalorian was a great like it doesn't make up for three shit like Star Wars movies they gave us, but definitely the Mandalorian could have been way crap. Like it could have been crappier than we thought, but
Mhm.
it was
But
really
notice it
good.
didn't have any really
No,
woke shit in it though. It had
no,
no
no,
woke shit in it, and that's why
no.
it was good. It was just
Yep,
a good piece of content.
yep.
They tried to cram all that woke shit in the new trilogy, and it was fucking shit. It was
Yeah,
just
like John
terrible.
Boyega, we love the character, rogue stormtrooper, wants to fight the rebellion,
Yeah.
doesn't do shit. Like he
Doesn't do shit.
doesn't
He's just
do
screaming Ray the
shit.
entire time. And you know
Yeah,
why they
right.
started doing that, right? To appease the Chinese audience in the Chinese market. They diminished Finn's character, even on the poster, if you've seen the comparisons. They made like Finn like this big in the Chinese poster. And I think they cut out some of his scenes too. And they made him way lesser of a character because I guess the Chinese market doesn't like black people or something about
And
that. I
that's
don't
the
know.
problem.
Which is fucked up, right? So if you're
Yeah,
part of
it's fucked
BLM, you
up.
should
Yeah.
be against Disney too. It's like, but
It's the problem. Is like, it's like we understand business. Like you want to be able to stay afloat as a business and make money, but at some point you got to be like, wait, like at the end of the day, like we understand this. Like you just gotta understand that that just ain't right. Like again, we understand. You and I went into business majors. We both understand the point of a company is to make money. You want to
mhm.
stay afloat and make a profit, but at some point you got to be like, okay, what are we doing here?
Well,
Like
you have to
you got
maintain
you,
your values. Like, what's more
yeah.
important, your values as a company and as the people running the company, because companies are made up of people, or expanding into a new, different market, which is China, because they're just seeing dollar signs over in China because it has more people than us, and they just want to expand into that. And I guess they just don't care about losing American audiences, or just tell American audiences, yeah, accept this watered down garbage, you fucking trash. Like, I
And
don't
that's
know.
the and that's the thing. It's like,
I don't want to
especially
support that.
especially in
I
today's world where you can easily make money. Like you reach Disney Plus, like literally more people signed up for Disney Plus to watch the movie Soul, and then to sign up for HBO Max to watch the second Wonder Woman movie.
well, the second Wonder Woman was garbage.
Was still though
So
like
garbage.
they signed up more to watch an animated movie than watch a DC like live action. Where the first Wonder Woman was actually really good, so
It
people actually
was.
probably had hope. Yeah, so people probably had hope. So like, oh, you know what? But still, they wanted to watch an animated movie. So there's this. Like I said, there's got to be yet. Like there's such a way to keep values and profit at a minimum. Like there has to be. Like there's like you telling me that you can't do that. Like
Well,
that's what.
normally I would say that when you do maintain your morals and values in your business mission statement, right, what you set out to do, you earn more respect of the people. Like that's why we took all those social responsibility courses in business, right? If you are
Yeah.
socially responsible, you prove to the American public that you are a good corporation. They will trust you more than the other non-trustworthy corporations. But I think that Disney is like, well, fuck you, America. There's way less people here. We're going to go into China. And then I know some of you will accept our watered down content that's not as good. So, you know, we'll still make more money. So it's worth degrading our values and the franchises you love, like Marvel and Star Wars and all that stuff. We're going to degrade them. Sorry. We own it now.
There has to be where we can appease to the China. What's the problem? Because it's a communist. Like, I bet you there's people in China who would love the content now, but we have to appease because they have a different government than we do. So we have, because the business have to be, like I said, there. I bet you in a great world there'd be a way where we can appease to both, but we can't because we have.
And I think that they should have to pick America. And if they don't, then we don't support them. Like, you're supporting a government that has concentration camps right now, that has their own like Holocaust going on. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
I just wish Disney never bought Marvel or Star Wars from Lucasfilms. Don't you wish that?
For me, they made Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was, I mean, you obviously, I mean, we both understand why Captain Marvel wasn't as good as it could have been. I think that was the first bad or semi-bad movie they made. I thought like the rest was fine. Like Civil War was great. Endgame minus. Like, it was
I
funny
loved
because
every movie up to Captain Marvel. Had nothing to do with her being a woman or anything, because Wonder Woman was great. But Captain Marvel was just terrible writing, all woke garbage, had no story, nothing for her to conquer. She was always all powerful, like they did for Rey in Star Wars. They just eroded the character.
Yeah, I think they got too much real life stuff into a comic book universe movie. Like, that's
it wasn't real life stuff. It was just they were trying to prove a woke agenda. It had nothing to do with
they're trying to take a real life agenda and make it into a comic book universe. Like even the comic universe, we know Captain Marvel's the strongest Avenger. You can still do that. Yeah. You can still do that without making the woke crap. Like, you can still do that because we, as huge Marvel fans, we don't need like a 200 IQ to understand that she's the most powerful Avenger. Like, just make a movie where she's the most powerful Avenger without needing to have the woke agenda.
Like, all they were doing was pushing it was more of just like a woke movie than a superhero movie.
And then
like, it had some cool action scenes, but it was like mostly just about this woke agenda shit. I'm like, I told you I saw it with my grandfather, and he leaned over to me and he whispered, "Is this part of the Me Too movement?" And I'm like,
yeah. See, here's the compare and contrast. Avengers Endgame, they forced the all girls, like they all team up at the end. They forced that. There's many people who would admit they forced it. But then you go to The Mandalorian. Remember the last episode where we didn't even realize it was all women fighting? They didn't force it. It was badass. And we're like, wait, those were all women fighting together.
Yeah, it was all organically awesome.
Yeah, it was all organic. That's what I'm saying.
The way they did it was all individuals who were badass in their own right that were working together to survive versus we're pushing this in your face. Look how strong women are. Yeah. No, we're all together.
Someone part of the Endgame cast said that. I think we wish that we made it more organic. We didn't force it on people. Because honestly, if it was organic, that would have been badass. You just see fucking Wasp going to ham. You see Wanda going to ham. If it was organic, that's fine. It's awesome. Go ahead. You know, right when the portals open, shit, we woke, man. We up cheering. You hear the music. You hear Captain Marvel go, Avengers.
Dude, I cannot see that scene without having a giant grin on my face. Even when I think about it right now, it just makes me happy.
I get goosebumps. Awesome. Oh God, that was probably one of the greatest scenes in Marvel movies. It was. Oh God.
So yeah, let me ask you now. So I know who your favorite Marvel character is, but who's your favorite Marvel character, and how do you think that character has impacted the way you've grown up, and has it had any impact on real world decisions you've had to make, like you comparing what would blank do compared to in the situation?
Yeah, well, my favorite is Iron Man, no doubt. I mean, Iron Man has been my favorite since Iron Man 1. And it's just it's really cringy to relate about it, but I grew up very fortunate to have a family who could give my sister and I everything we wanted. I'd say you can use the R word if you wanted to, but we're a wealthy family.
What?
Rich.
Oh, that's a thing now. I thought you were retarded. I'm like, I knew you were retarded.
I just don't want to come off as an asshole. Like, we were a wealthy family. We weren't given, like, my parents worked their asses off to help my sister and I go to Disneyland and do all this stuff. And I was a very spoiled little shit. And watching, and then I was able to relate to Tony because we saw him start as a spoiled little shit. Like, he thought he was entitled because he had all this money, and he was making money based off of a company that was selling weapons to kill people. And then he kind of woke and he was like, you know what I'm doing is wrong. And like he kind of changed himself and like helped me like kind of like seeing kind of like that success of being able to go from a spoiled little shit to someone who actually kind of cares about the world. That kind of has helped me, you know, when I was younger, get out of that spoiled little shit and become someone who's more caring and more
Mhm.
active about, you know, just trying to help.
So it made you question your position in life and how
Yes.
you could use your advantages to better help yourself and others around
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Right, like
Yes.
Iron Man did.
You can be wealthy, but that doesn't give you a higher status than everyone else.
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Good point.
So like Iron Man effect, that was the big effect on me. And like Robert Downey Jr. is my favorite actor. Like I think it almost teary eyed just think about his ending scene. But honestly, like I was happy cry when he died. I knew at some point he was gonna like they were gonna have to like just find a way to just he can't do it
Mhm.
forever. Like the man survived shrapnel in his fucking chest for crying out loud, and he had surgery in a cave. Like that man, hey, and then like
Yeah.
I honestly thought Captain America was gonna be the one that snapped, but honestly, I think what they did with
Really? You
Iron Man
thought
was
Cap was gonna?
yeah. I thought Cap was, especially reading all the rumors and stuff like that. But I kind of feeling that Iron Man would do it going into it, and I thought I'd be sad because he's one of my favorite characters ever, like in
Mhm.
any movie franchise. But it was more of a happy, like I'm at peace. Like I just saw a great like a great hero arc and ending. Great. It was lovely, awesome. So
Yeah. I mean, I saw someone remaster like the ending music of him
yeah.
about to snap his fingers, and they put Black Sabbath's Iron Man instead. Da, 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 da,
That'd
da,
been pretty
da,
cool,
da,
but
da,
yeah,
da. And he says, "I am Iron Man." He snaps his
yeah,
fingers.
yeah.
That would have been awesome.
It's just a great story arc and stuff like it. So I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
so obviously he's my favorite character ever, but as of right now, my new one is Peter Quill. So it's
Because you
just,
look like him.
I mean, not because of, but he's a great. I mean, it's just a great character. It's just like this guy that like his mom dies of tumor in her brain. He gets abducted by aliens, he becomes a raider, and then he just meets Gamora. It was a great build up. Batista, you know, Groot, Rock. It's just a great character. In the second Guardians of the Galaxy, he finds his dad. Turned out he's a freaking villain. Supposed to take his soul
Yeah.
and try to take over the
I think that one might be
universe.
my favorite Marvel movie. I really love Guardians of the Galaxy too. I really
That
love
was
it.
that's my mom's favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. It's a great movie. I'm not saying it like all those movies are fantastic. Like I'm not saying Iron Man 1 is better than any other movie, but just Iron Man was my first one, and that's the one I just get the most joy out of.
Yeah.
Like when he sits in the press conference and he goes, you know what? I ain't gonna read off these fucking note cards. I am Iron Man. And then
Mhm.
boom. And then you just know, boom, we about to go ham.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even like when like he didn't question shit. I don't care who people know. Like if like remember in the third Iron Man where like Tony was at like the hospital or whatever, and he goes, "Man, the Mandarin, you know where I'm at. Come to my address." He's like, "Here's my address. Meet me there, bitch." He didn't care. It's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. It just
But then he also
this
put Pepper Potts in jeopardy. She almost
yeah,
died.
but
Yeah.
then he threw the suit to her. He's like, "You know what?
Uh-huh.
Suit." You know that was pretty awesome. Like you just suit, ching,
I
and that
think
was
my
pretty
first
cool.
the third might be my favorite. It might go 3-1-2 for me. I love all three of them,
See,
honestly, but
I'm a huge Jeff Bridges guy, so one's my favorite because what a great villain. Oh God, that was such a Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave, the bunch of scraps.
a bunch of scraps.
But great villain. It was great writing. You know, you got Happy, you got Pepper, you got
It's what launched the whole
oh
Marvel universe. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, but it launched it, but then Captain America built up because he's the first Avenger because it ties
Mhm.
in. Yeah, but you know,
And
I'm not saying Iron
I
Man's.
think Cap is my favorite Avenger. I
Yeah,
think. Well, at least
he's
I don't know. I love Iron Man, but I might identify with Captain America the most.
he's
And
second or third on my list.
I've had dreams where they like, the government comes and takes my crippled ass out of my room and like brings me to a
You just hope.
laboratory and just gives me the serum and I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready, dude.
You hope
I
that's
got
the
this.
case. You're just
Yeah.
like, yeah. You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle.
I kind of am. I mean,
No, I know.
all my
Yeah, well,
surgery. I'm kind of already Captain America. That's what I'm trying to say.
well, yeah. The thing about Captain America, it's you watch the movie and it kind of helps hey, I'm not the biggest dude, but if I have a big heart, and it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, it's about the size of the fight in the dog. Like he's
Hmm.
scrawny, but he's like, I'm a fight. Like he goes, I can do this all day. It's just the mentality that you ain't gonna give up. You're gonna fight. You don't care how big you are. You don't care how small you are. Like you didn't see Steve Rogers in Infinity War. Oh God, Thanos is so big. I ain't gonna fight.
Yeah,
No,
I didn't
he
even
ran and he
hesitate,
fight.
man.
No, he fought
Yeah.
the hand. He tried, and he resisted a little bit. That Thanos like, you know what?
And
Fuck you,
Thanos
bitch.
was
I'm
like,
fucking.
no, but he was like, what? How are you doing this?
Yeah,
He was like, how are you
yeah,
doing
and then
this?
he's like, you know what? I'm fucking Thanos, bitch. Fucking bitch. Oh, Thanos.
But the whole thing about the speech, Stanley Tucci giving that speech
Yeah.
to little Steve Rogers before he got the serum was like,
Yeah.
a good man who has known power all his life might lose respect for that power, but a weak man knows the value of that power. And that really got me, dude, when I watched
Yeah,
it.
it ain't
the first
about
time.
being a good soldier. It's not being about a good soldier. It's about being a good man.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. I think about Falcon and Winter Soldier. The reason that Captain America didn't give Bucky the shield is because he's a perfect soldier. Falcon's the good man. She's like, you know what?
Hmm.
You're a good man. You're at the end of the end game. You're like, you're a good man. Yeah, he goes, yeah, and then he
I'm
gives him the
excited.
shield.
I want to see that too, but
It looks
also
good.
don't wanna, I don't want to support Disney though. That's the thing, man. I love the story and everything, but I don't. That's the
Yeah.
conflict. They own this intellectual property they don't deserve to have. That's the problem,
Let's see. It kind of goes back to the thing with me and Chris Brown. Like you guys give me crap all the time because he beat Rihanna, but I tell people all the time. But here's the thing. I tell people this all the time. I condemn that. You shouldn't beat a woman. That's terrible. But him doing that doesn't make his music. Like I love his music. I don't. So I can. It's like I can love Chris Brown's music, but I don't support what he did.
So
It's
you
like
can
Trump,
separate the artist from their
the
content.
person. Yes.
So like you could
Yes.
still laugh at. Personally, I never thought Bill Cosby was funny. When I go back and listen to, because I'm a comic and I go back and listen to all these comedians before I was even born. When I go back and listen to him, I never thought he was funny. But like, would you be able to separate his jokes and material from the person, or knowing what he did would ruin that for you?
For me, it doesn't. I mean, it's the same with OJ. Like, obviously, he murdered that person. Like, yeah, I'm serious. We go to the same thing. People go, he like people believe he actually murdered that person. I obviously wasn't born around that time, or I was really young when that came up, so I don't know about the facts. But as a sports guy, OJ is one of the greatest running backs ever. So it's the things like you at the end of the day, what he did off the field is going to overtake what he did on the field. But when you watch football and you watch OJ step on the field, you witness one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game. Like
Is he
that's
still one of the best? He's still one of the best.
People would say he's top 3, top 4. That's what people will say. Like people would say that. And like the thing that I'm
People
able to
also
separate-
say he almost cut his wife's head off.
Yes. Oh, yes. And that's what I'm saying. If he murdered that person, like that would obviously like Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez at the time was one of the most dominant tight ends in the NFL, but he murdered people. But we didn't know that at the time until it all came out, and he rightly deserved to go to jail. Taking his own life. I mean, I won't speak on that, but he deserved to go to jail for murdering those people. Like that's the thing. But so it's like, and like Chris Brown, I'm able to separate his content as an artist from what he is as a character.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I condemn it, but when I flip on that music and I sing to it, I don't think of. It's like I don't.
I would
think of,
love to listen to you sing Chris Brown.
Oh, I know like every song. Oh God, it's just one of those things.
Oh my God,
it's just I think it's also with like I'm not tone deaf. I'm not going to ignore him. I'm not going to ignore
songs
the
even
situation.
about. Like, what is he singing about?
I mean, some of them are like about like love and stuff like that. Some
Does
like,
he even write them?
Yes, he does. He writes all of them. Literally, he went to jail for like tax problems. When he went to jail for like a year, he wrote a whole album in prison. He wrote the whole album in like in a journal, something like that.
Did he ever
and he
write
came
a
out,
song
This isn't
about
Cardi B
beating Rihanna?
No,
Nothing?
honestly,
He never addressed it?
He has a tattoo on his neck of the face of Rihanna's face when it looked like when he beat her.
What?
Like he carries that. He literally lives like I watched
he has
his documentary.
a beaten-faced Rihanna on his neck?
Yep. No, I watched his documentary on Netflix. He wears that shit. He's like, people are not going to accept me for what I did, and what I did was terribly wrong. I regret it, but that's something that I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life. Some people like would ignore that shit. Like I didn't do. Like funny. Look at me. Like he owns that shit. and that's
I
why
guess
I
that's
love
a good
that.
step, man. I mean, I'm
He
all for
owns it.
redemption, you know. I mean, he
No,
didn't
him
kill
and
her, at
Rihanna
least.
talk. Like there's been rumors like like 2 years ago they got back together. Like Rihanna still loves that guy. Like obviously what was
Okay.
terrible, like but like he like I said, he owns it. He knows that he ain't gonna get respect from people because of it. But he just he accepts that. He's not gonna like
Mhm.
obviously he feels bad, but he's not gonna let that ruin his life.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, I don't really care about Chris Brown too
Oh, I know
much,
you
but
don't, but
it's
I'm
about the
explaining it.
principle. I was
Yeah,
interested in like if you're able to separate the creator from
yeah.
their body of work.
That's why I said I'm already create. I'm already like that's the thing. I think it was the Marvel and
Which
Disney. We able to separate. I'm able to separate Marvel with what they're doing as a company. Like that's what we're talking about. Like how you want to see Falcon Winter Soldier,
mhm.
but see, that's what I'm saying. You're more of a stronger character than I do. You like I'm somehow able to separate that just because I find so much emotion and joy into it. You
Well,
find
the
joy in
thing
it, but
is,
you are more logical than I am. You're more logical than I am. So
yeah, I mean, but I just know that the money would go directly to doing bad things. You
yeah,
know, I
that's
just
the
don't. I did like I want to support. If I could support just Marvel on their own, I would love to do that. Like
oh
I want it
definitely
because you're
or
voting. You
Lucasfilms.
basically vote with your dollar, you know, on what you
Yep.
want to
Yep.
support. And I
Yep.
want to support Lucasfilms. They always were amazing. When I rewatched the Star Wars movies, I love them way more now as a
Isn't that
22 year
crazy?
old than
Isn't that
as
crazy?
a kid. I
When
do.
you're younger, you watch 1, 2, and 3, and you're like, this is such shit. But then you're older and you watch 1, 2, and 3, and you're like, this is actually kind of good. Like, it's
Yeah,
really weird how that works.
I like
It's really weird.
the first 6 of them like way better as an adult than a kid. I really do
Yep.
because I'm able
Oh,
to like
I
fully analyze like all the metaphors and all the
yeah,
things he buried in there. Like
yeah.
people say that George Lucas is kind of cheesy with Star Wars. I think the opposite.
I thought it was
I think
great.
it's a
I
pretty
thought it
powerful
was
story. But
yeah, the idea, the creation of it was fantastic. I watched the documentary on Disney Plus. It was great.
mhm.
It was awesome. But the creation of Star Wars, people who didn't like film like directors and like companies were like, we ain't gonna support that shit. They ain't gonna work in the 60s and 70s. Like even Harrison Ford
Yeah,
when he's like, he wants me to do something in space, fighting aliens.
dude, he
He's
still
like,
doesn't like it.
yeah,
He still
no.
shits. Harrison Ford actively shits on all of Star Wars and his character.
But then he loves
He's
it. But
like
he loves yeah. He's like,
he actively
no.
like hardcore shits on it.
But he
And
loves
it's
he's
hilarious.
happy he's a part of it. That's the thing. He shits on him. He's like, I can't say he's happy he's a part of it, which is funny.
I think he's
Like
happy he got paid, man. I think that's what he's happy about.
it's funny because I think he's there's parts where he's like I'm like, it was funny because he's like I'm so happy he's dead.
I just didn't think he wanted to go be in Star Wars and do the whole thing anymore.
But he's getting up there in age. I mean, you can only do it for so long. It's like Robert Downey Jr. It's like you can only take the character so far, and only the actor knows. Like you can be a director and you can try to push the. It's like staying with Chris Evans. Like he's coming back to do some Captain America shit, but he said he'd only come
Is he?
back if he said he'd come back if he believed that this could benefit the character in his story. And that's the same with Robert Downey Jr. Like
Mhm.
they knew that this is where his stop ends. If like he came back and did a cameo for the Black Widow movie, he's like,
Mhm.
okay, that makes sense because this
Hey,
takes place in Civil War. We'll go. I'll do that. It's like
I think they wrapped it up really nice with Steve
Yep.
Rogers and him
Yep.
going back to Peggy and all that stuff. Speaking of, I
Speaking of
wanted to ask
WandaVision-
you about
oh,
relationships.
okay, real
You know,
quick. I'm
go
gonna be
ahead.
honest with you. When they showed Pietro in WandaVision, I was really hoping that was Captain America. I'm like, bro, imagine they got old Steve Rogers back, and that's old. Like, I saw the gray hair. I'm like,
Oh,
actually
that's
Steve
actually a
Rogers?
good idea.
I thought that because
That's a good. I never
when
thought
she
of that.
walked
That's a
out
good idea.
because when she walked out, we're like, okay, she's getting crazy. Like we need someone to talk to her, like she can relate, like they can calm her down. I'm like, oh my god. I was saying, get Iron Man. I'm like, wait, no, he's dead. I'm like, wait, that ain't gonna work.
Dude, they
Just
should
get
have had
old
Steve Rogers in like the 1950s setting. That would have been awesome.
Well,
That's a
just bring
good
the old,
idea.
bring him old back, but bring the old, like you bring old Rogers, like like I thought it was the old Steve Rogers from Endgame. I'm like, oh, is that Steve Rogers? And it's Pietro. I'm like, oh shit. Like it
Yeah,
obviously
it's
has
still
like
good. I mean, I
flair.
want to see the
Oh, it's so
crossover.
good. Yeah, it's so great. But I was like, Steve Rogers, Steve Rogers. Nah, it's okay.
Dude, this is turning into such a fucking nerd fest. I didn't think
Hey.
it got so political and then so nerdy so quickly.
Hey, we're keeping it going. We're keeping the train moving. Hey.
Oh my god. Anyways,
Yeah.
so yeah, I wanted to ask you about, as a 23-year-old male now, and I just turned 23 myself, just kind of like what the landscape is right now of trying to, navigate, trying to find a partner, along with trying to, you're still trying to get a master's in business. I'm
Yep.
done with college. I just graduated. So,
Yep.
um, I know you just broke up with your girlfriend because, she kind of needed more attention than you could really provide as you're trying to focus on school and doing some other stuff.
And I just got a
And
job. So it's like,
has got a job. So, like, what do you think as a guy? Like, let me ask you this: are you always afraid of like offending women when you're trying to find new women? Like, do you have to ever be extra careful? You've had more opportunities than me. So,
well, here's the thing: is like, I don't want to offend them because obviously their feelings just matter as much as mine does. So I don't want to come across offensive. So it's necessarily of just
well, I do think you have
where
to be
like,
extra careful now because of social media and all the trends that have been happening against guys. Like, do you?
I think it depends on if you know the person or not. I think if you know the person well enough that you understand like what their beliefs are, you can easily map out a strategy to, like if you can be like, she's a little bit left, but she's not far left. She understands like maybe I'm down the middle. I took multiple tests. I'm right down the fucking middle.
Mhm.
But so it's like I could date a girl. It's a tad to the left, tad to the right. But it's like this girl's she's a Democrat, but she can understand, she can relate, she understands, she accepts me. Then you don't have to like you then you can map out a strategy. It's like a game plan. Like the girl, find out what she likes, relate to her, and then like if you want to ask her out, like if she loves roses, ask her out with some roses or something. Like you got to it's just if you're asking a
Mhm.
total stranger, so you have to be careful depending on who this person is and how you know them. So it's like if it's say, like Amelia and like I knew her since like seventh grade. So I knew her pretty well. So I was able to, not be as careful, but still be careful. You still have to be careful.
Mhm.
You don't want to like hurt her
But that was
feelings.
before the Me Too movement. I'm saying like with the Me Too
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
Are
I
you
mean,
are you ever scared? Like if you piss off a girl in some other formal argument, she'll accuse you of something you didn't do. Like
yes.
does that
Oh,
does that
yes.
scare you?
Yes. Yes. So that's why I be careful when I get my points across because I want them to understand that, hey, maybe I have different views, but I want you to understand that I understand where you're coming from, what you represent. Maybe I'm not as strong as you are in those. Like I understand that girls obviously should be able to do some stuff, same stuff as men, not play football because I think football is not is built for. Cause I just can't see a full grown woman being able to survive a hit of a grown
You mean
man.
against a man? Like,
Yeah, like that. Like, if they want to have like a national football league for women, go ahead. I think that'd be great. Girls want to play football, go ahead. But I see people like men that are just hitting the weight room who are jacked, and you're telling me
like
that like
the guy Fallon, what's his name? Fallon Fox or whatever, who beat the shit out of that girl in like a UFC fight and busted her orbital open.
yeah,
What's what is her
it's like
name? You heard that story?
I
Fucked
didn't.
up.
But like, I'm not saying that girls can't. But I'm saying like there's some sports that they could. And like I think soccer girls and guys can play together. Like they both are like there's no like it's all about stamina and like you're like as a like, you're it's like it's like a chess game. Like how do you move the ball around stuff like that? I think girls and guys can play on the same soccer field like that. Like that's one sport that can work well. Like I said,
Mhm.
football. You think a full-grown woman can survive a hit of a full-grown man? I think it's just I'm not. That's not sexist, but I just think it's just the physical nature. Guys are always bigger than women. Like that's just how it was. Like
Mhm.
I'm not saying like
Well, how it
I'm not
is.
saying that's how it is. That's how it is.
Anyways,
Sorry.
we were talking about
Yeah.
relationships. So I'm just
Sorry.
curious, like, are you
Sorry,
scared
Lily.
that you'll ever be like, falsely accused of something? Like a
Yes.
lot of
Oh,
people have
yes.
been. Like even
Yes.
was it Aziz Ansari who like just went on a bad date and like they accused him of rape? Like
Yeah. You
it
got to
was,
be
and
careful
she
with that.
admitted like she just made it up. Like, and the same
I
whole thing with
think.
the Brett Kavanaugh stuff. Like they were just trying to not get him on the Supreme Court, so they accused him of rape and gang rape. I think it was terrible. They just
Well, and
made up
then
all this shit. And the Me Too movement had validity to it with Harvey Weinstein, but they went way too
yeah.
far, obviously.
And
So,
then the football player Reuben Foster, who was accused of like rape and other domestic violence kind of stuff like that. He got dropped. He got released by his team. Went to court, and his girlfriend under oath told the truth, saying that she only made this stuff up so she can have his money. So like
oh
that's the
man,
problem is that we gotta understand what's real and what isn't.
which
Because
is
like
hard to do nawadays, isn't it?
yeah. But I'm just trying to
It's
say that you got to be careful because honestly, there's some girls like you can come across like who've actually maybe experienced that. Maybe their dad was crazy and maybe was mental. Like you can come across with some stuff like that. So you just got to be careful because, like I said, there's one thing about girls that have the agendas and stuff like that that believe that. There's also some girls who lived through that. So you just got to be careful. I fear more the girls who live through that because I don't want to I wanted them to have a good time with me. I don't want them to bring up like childhood trauma. Like I don't want to do that. I don't want them to, because like that's also the thing. You gotta figure out like what's an agenda, what they actually been through. Because like I think that's the most important thing. Because you do not want to bring up childhood drama. Like I don't want to bring up a girl like her dad was, was very forced. I don't want to like he was maybe hitting her a lot and stuff like that. And I don't want to bring that up. So you just got to be careful. You just have to be.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, I think that pretty much covers everything we were gonna talk. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about because you're such a big sports fan too about the national anthem. And did you hear the whole thing about Mark Cuban going on today? And,
I have a different opinion on this. So here's because
let's say the issue first. It's about playing the national anthem like in the NBA and is it about football too or just the NBA?
NBA. It was just the Mavericks. Just the Mavericks. He stopped doing the national anthem. Everyone else did. Everyone else was playing the national anthem except the Mavericks.
So the NBA said now that they will, because they haven't been playing for the past year, right? No national anthem. I thought it was
just the season. I think it was just the season.
I heard it was a year, but whatever season, whatever.
Oh yeah.
And now the NBA, because they lost so much viewership, this is a good example of people using their instead of their dollar to vote, their actual view to vote. So they stopped watching, and now the NBA is like, we need people to watch, so we're going to play the national anthem again. Turns out people are patriotic and they like America, so we can't just appease China. We have to appease some of the Americans too, which is fucked up that that's what it takes for them to realize it. But again, that's what it took. And even Mark Cuban, who I used to respect, is now like going against that. What do you think about that?
Here's my so I watch like a sports debate show regularly, and a football player, Shannon Sharp, he voiced how about how he thinks some traditions should be broken, why he thinks that they should be allowed not to play it or not. I think that we should play it, but then also allow players to like kneel, because here's the thing. I know you don't like the kneeling part, but you play it. There's people there that want to listen to it. So you please everyone. People want to kneel, take a stance, raise the fist up, all that. Like, but it's playing. Like you're making a gesture. You're making a gesture when it's all playing. It's totally different if you don't play it at all. I think there's a difference between you playing it and having some players take a knee, raise their fist up and stuff like that.
The thing is, like, should they even be debatable? Like, should it be debatable that you play the national anthem? Like, why is that debatable even?
Because it's funny because someone brought up a good point saying, do you remember like when we were very young, we used to sing "I Pledge Allegiance to the Flag of the United States of America" in elementary school. Then they stopped doing that all. And they stopped doing that all.
We never did it. They actively would talk about how it was bad sometimes in class, which was like, what are you saying right now?
So I'm a sports guy, and I mean I don't, like I said, my stance is we should play it, but then let players take a knee, during that, or like I said, raise the fist, because like I said, that's why sparks conversation when there's during the national anthem. You stopping it completely, it's just not worth whatsoever, because like nothing's happening. Like it's just you're just pissing everyone off, because I've seen some people who actually took a knee in the NFL, and they would mouth the national anthem. So like there's some at least play it and then let players knee or not. Like let them take a stance during the national. The
knee was eventually a lot of people and players in the NFL and NBA were pressured into having to kneel. Otherwise, they weren't socially they weren't a social warrior or whatever, and they would lose brand deals. And that's the thing about the country right now in the social landscape is you have to abide by what the far left is saying. Otherwise, they'll take away all your brand deals, all your livelihood. You might get fired. And that's the other scary thing, So
yeah. So then I think that should be played, but allow players to make a gesture that they want. Like I said, I watch a lot of NFL games. You don't watch it because you watch about the people kneeling and stuff like that because you have different views than I do. When I watch the NFL, I saw some players who didn't even take a knee that were black. They just raised their fist up. I'm like, great, they're standing. they're hand over heart, black, hand over heart, fist up. That's fine. The anthem's still playing. Players taking a knee, arms locked. Still, anthem still playing, by the way, still going on. Just I think we should give a little leeway to the players, play it. But if they want to, take a knee or not, because they believe, like say, hey, something in our city is not right, go ahead, take a knee, but just let it play. I just don't.
I just think it's kind of disgraceful to take a knee or put a fist up or whatever, because it shows non-unity. Like, if anything, you should sing it loud and proud and say why you're happy and proud to be an American, because it's the most diverse place in the world, and that we are all brothers and sisters, and we need to work together to solve these issues. If we're working against each other, they're not going to be solved ever. The only way to do it is to work together. I just think it sends the wrong message. That's why I'm personally against it. But
and I think and here's the thing: we both agree on the unity part, but I think that if some players do that, we're in unity because like, hey, you know what? Like I said, we back earlier in the podcast we are talking about, we may not agree with the same topics, but we're Americans. You may take a knee, you may raise a fist up, but I may put my hand over heart. But at the same day, we both love this country. We're both Americans. We want what's best for it. So I think you and I are in the same place. We want unity, but we have different ways of getting there.
And I know that the manipulation from the media will take all the people that have their hands over their hearts and say that they're not American because they're not supporting the other causes that they deem to be just or right.
I don't think both media sides don't do a good job. I
might agree with you on players being able to do whatever they want during it, maybe. Yeah. But the thing is, I know what the media will do with it. I think the media is honestly the enemy of the people against all. They're pitting us against each other when
because there's both sides. Both sides of the media pin us against each other. Because that's the thing. Like, there's no common ground. It's both opinion based. I watch some Fox News, and I think some of it's opinion based. I hear some people kind of spin it, and there's some people on CNN who do it. So it's like,
I'll give credit to Fox where they do a better job, in my opinion, of saying what is an opinion show and what isn't, versus like MSNBC and NBC and CNN will just project it as news when it's all pure opinion.
See, I would not mind these news channels having opinion-based shows. Let people know this is all opinion-based. Then go ahead, say what your opinion is. You're getting paid by the company to say your opinion. Go ahead.
Like Tucker Carlson, it's an opinion show, right?
Yes.
And I believe they say Rachel Maddow is an opinion show, but just that just CNN in general has a huge left bias. And even Time Magazine, I don't know if you saw this article, they were so proud that they rigged the election through media and big tech that they were gloating about it. Did you see the Time article about this?
No, I haven't. I don't
very
watch
disturbing.
I don't watch a whole lot of CNN, Fox, and stuff like that.
It has nothing to do with that.
I'm just saying in general.
It talks about how they all the big tech companies and the left media, which is like all the media, work together in order to get Trump out of office, to manipulate people into believing stuff that necessarily wasn't true. They're gloating about it openly now in Time Magazine.
And see, here's the problem: is that we don't know what's the facts or not. We go back to we talk about the COVID vaccine.
They're gloating, saying they knew it was fact.
There's some people
manipulating it.
Like there's some doctors who say the COVID vaccines will change your DNA, and there's some that say it's perfectly fine. Well, we need to know what the facts are.
I don't know.
Even for politics, I want to know what the facts are. I don't want to give my opinion on something if I'm getting two different sides of information. It's just like, okay, they're both manipulating each other, and that's what pins us against each other. We're not getting the actual facts. Instead, we're taking opinions and we're choosing an opinion, but that opinion could be wrong, and then we're fighting. We're not fighting over facts. We're fighting over opinions that we're given.
Right.
That's the problem.
And the flow of information is really, we can tell now why Facebook is so valuable, right? They knew a while ago that where the real money is going to be is not in advertising or whatever. It's going to be in selling people's information and creating algorithms based on your likes, your interests, what you're looking at, who you are, who you have relationships with. All the data. Data is the biggest commodity. It's so weird now that we're all the product. And they're using all that information to give us certain opinions to manipulate us. That is fucked up.
I agree with that. But here, I might have an unpopular opinion on this because, how if you go on Amazon and you search something that you like, But then you go to like Instagram or Facebook, then you see like an Amazon ad of the stuff that you recently searched. I honestly, personally, to that extent, don't mind it. It's kind of more of a reminder saying, hey, you were looking at this stuff on Amazon, click this link and you go back to Amazon and look at it. I personally, to that extent, don't mind it. It's like, you know what, this is your interest. We're sending you ads to something you may like saying I shop on the NFL shop. No, that means that I may want something from the NBA store. So those send me the NBA store ads as well. I personally don't mind that. But if you're selling our personal information, stuff like that, that's too far. That's too far.
Well, I mean, that's what they've been doing forever.
Yeah.
I mean, Instagram now apparently has the right, by you agreeing to their terms of service, they sneak it in there, where like they have full access to all your phone, right? They can go in all your phone call history, your text message history, scan it with AI. They have access to all your other apps. They have full control of your phone now.
Which is too far. That's too far. Like I said,
obviously, but what are you going to do? Like I always go back to this example. Like, what if you're a business that over the years you've been using Instagram to grow your business, and you're relying, could be solely or a large percentage on Instagram to sell your products, and they just updated their terms of service. Now they have access to everything, and you're not okay with that, and you have principles and morals. So what are you going to do? You're just going to get rid of your entire business? What are you going to do?
So,
they have control of you. Like they waited to get all these people and businesses established on their sites to really sneak in them even more insidious shit to fuck you over. What are you going to do now, bitch, huh? You going to leave? Hey, guess what? Guess what? We're going to use Parler as an example. People want to go over to Parler and use a different app than us. We're going to shut Parler down. Fine. We'll just go get different web hosting. Sorry, Amazon Web Services took that off. Now, but there's no Parler anymore. No alternatives, just us. We win. Fuck you.
That's the thing. Like I said, it sucks because like we didn't have a medium. Like we should have. Why not have apps where if you have like say like you're a Republican, go to a Republican only base. It's like a dating site. Maybe you're in a Christian mingle. You want to date Christians. You're Christian. Find Christians near you. You want to find Republicans. You want to talk about Republican views too. Go on this Republican app. You want to talk to Democrats and say, here's a Democrat, talk on this Democrat app. If you want to just have a happy medium, go to these other apps. It's like what's wrong with that?
But the thing is, they're preventing that because they want full control over everything. They're authoritarian. They're not allowing that, and that's what we need. And the thing is, when we use our dollar to pay for companies like Disney or use apps like Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff, you are giving them support. They're still using you. Like that's the problem. And it's never going to be fixed until people decide to use the power they have to change things and build new things. That's what needs to happen. But when people are like, I love WandaVision, I love watching Marvel, I love Star Wars, why do you think they acquired all that stuff?
Yeah.
So they can keep people hooked in.
That's the problem is that I'm hooked in as fuck, but it's like I agree with what's going on. Like that's what's wrong. It's the problem. It's like make it free.
That's the thing. We all got to make a choice.
Like I said, you have more logical than I am. I'm just like I said, you make the more logical decision I am. I am just here for the entertainment. I'm here to watch the Marvel. I'm here to go enjoy Disneyland and Disney World and all shit like that.
Yeah, but if everyone does that, then nothing will ever get fixed.
No, and that's the problem. It's like I'm hooked, and it's like I could go to Vegas.
Like, okay, what if you saw these characters getting worse and worse, and the stories getting worse and worse, and you're like, this is fucking shit. Now. Then would you cancel?
I'm dumping. I'm dumping. Yes, of course.
Okay, well that's good. So maybe you'll get to the point where you're like, wow, they really destroyed everything. Like,
do you think I'm gonna pay for HBO Max to watch the fucking Snyder cut? Fuck no. I mean, shit. You really like? I ain't gonna want. I mean, supposedly they have Joker. I mean, maybe I'll watch because they have new villains. Like they don't have Joker in it and shit like that. Maybe I'll watch that part, but I ain't gonna pay to watch Wonder Woman. But there's like movies coming out on that stuff that looks good. You got King Kong versus Godzilla, that could be good. You got Suicide Squad, that could be good. I mean, there's some, but it's like if it starts getting worse, I'm obviously
think about those too. Like, we're reduced to all these online services now because we actually don't have the other option of going out and doing stuff. Like because I want,
I do.
I've been craving going and doing.
Theaters are open down here.
Well, I mean, you have theaters and stuff, but I'm saying like, if I want to go do stand-up comedy, right? Because like I've been wanting to do, I miss stand-up so much. None of that shit is open here. You can't go out and go to clubs or do other things you would normally, I guess, do, or go to restaurants or do whatever. All that shit's closed. Your only options are to be on Disney Plus or scroll through your Instagram or go on Facebook or get arguments on Twitter or go on HBO Max or do whatever. Like everyone's just reduced to just sitting in front of Netflix all day, being brainwashed by whatever woke content they put out there. You know?
Yeah, or just
It's
like you want to watch like fucking Scrubs. Just want to rewatch Scrubs for the 100th time.
But it's all kind of mind melting. Like there's no more like thinking or discourse or public meetings and stuff. It's all being taken away.
I mean, honestly, we have this problem. Imagine the people during the plague, how that worked out for them. Just imagine like.
Well, the thing is, the people in the plague didn't have an online Twitter, and the thing is, like,
but I just feel like the interaction. Like you said, you can't be around people. Like you got to be locked in your house. You don't get the plague. But the thing is, it's like the problems with some of these governments. You have a mask mandate, but then you also can make it mandatory that it's lockdown. Well, make the mask mandatory, but then just get us out of lockdown. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
like,
so either the masks work or they don't. Like, stop it.
No, just have one or the other. You want the masks mandatory? I think most people like we're fine wearing a mask, but if you're having this mask and lockdown, that's too much.
They're advocating to have 2 masks on at all times now. Have you seen this?
Oh, the CDC is like they said that it's better. I'm just gonna one mask that shit.
Dude, it's unbelievable. The CDC said in the beginning, don't wear a mask. Fauci said don't wear a mask because you'll be fidgeting with it and you'll get more things on your face. Then it will make it worse than like not.
I actually
one, right?
think the mask helps.
But then he admitted he lied because he wanted to keep all the masks for nurses and other stuff. He admitted openly he lied to the American people about a public safety issue. Yeah. Which is you wonder why people don't trust you. Like,
I personally think the masks work because you either get it through the mouth or the nose. The mask covers the mouth and the nose. So just keep the mask thing going. Maybe just recommend the $9.95 mask, whatever they call the
K95, right?
K95s. Recommend those, sell those, make those. Then take us out of lockdown. Like I said, I bet people don't mind wearing masks if you just remove lockdown.
No matter what, the impacts from the economy are going to be are far worse than what the disease is. I mean, we're going to have to go through herd immunity. That's the only way this is going to ever go away.
In the individual states economy, like Arizona's
people who are immunocompromised like me, it sucks for me, but I got to stay inside. Sorry, but I understand as a person that would have to do that would be like, yeah, the economy has to reopen up. It can't survive. Yeah. I don't want all these people to suffer because of me. Sorry, I'm not just selfish like that. Like.
Then look at the individual states. I think we're gonna have a better they obviously have state economy and like how our businesses in Arizona are gonna do different than yours. Like we're doing I think we'll be better than off. Like where our economy is not as good but we don't have lockdown. We have masks. Yeah, some places are half capacity, but businesses are still able to stay open and get orders. You're still able to go sit down, take your mask off. You're on full lockdown. So businesses in Oregon are be much worse off than businesses in Arizona.
Right, and that's why everyone's flocking to Republican states like Arizona and Texas. Everyone's going to Texas, and everyone in Texas is worried that all these people from like California and New York are going to come in and vote differently and ruin their state. And there's a reason why they're flocking. They're like, remember why you're coming here. Remember why you're coming here. Okay? Yeah. Don't fuck up our state too. And everyone's kind of mad at Joe Rogan because everyone's like, Joe, stop telling everyone to come here. Stop telling everyone to come here, Joe.
I don't think Arizona's much of a problem because, like I said, the state of Arizona turned blue. You know, we can argue about the voting fraud in Arizona or not. I think it was a little. It should be. I thought it was a little closer than what the numbers were because I see a lot of people around here who are Republican. So for me, it's like I think the state could be blue. It could be, but I don't think the numbers were quite as I thought. It would be a little closer than what it was. So I thought, like I said, Arizona is the battle. Like that state, I thought that state was. I told you during our coverage, I think it would flip because I said I think it's close. I don't think it was. They made it look a little farther than it was, but I think it's close.
Yeah,
which is okay. It's okay for every state to be close, but there's one thing to kind of. To overblow it, and then because like it's okay to be close. It's okay if people have their opinion, but you don't need to blow it out of proportion.
Well, see, remember, I proposed this idea of like, what if we had like a no party system where everyone just voted with a person they most identify with their critical thinking process and how they got to a policy decision, but not necessarily just the policy decision. Like it would increase competition because there would be more people competing to be president. And people wouldn't be aligned to one team or the other team. It's like a bunch of teams because there's just no parties. And you don't have to like align yourself with certain party lines in order to get funding. Like it's all maybe crowdfunding or something,
or your own funding, like you are on knocking door to door. Excuse me, funding.
Just a different method. Like let's mix it up. Let's stop only having two parties because people do feel a lot of the time that it's choosing the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. And here's my thing with Trump. I bet there's people who could have who may have better views that you could write more than Trump, but Trump has such good funding because he's a good business guy. He has all these businesses tied to him, so they'll fund him. So he'll outfund you, so he'll get more on TV, he'll get more ads and more billboards than you. So I think I kind of agree. Like I'm not saying Trump, I'm not saying it was illegal. I'm saying
about Trump. Trump that is actually the opposite. Trump self-funded himself in his campaign. That's why everyone voted for him.
I didn't know.
Versus Hillary Clinton or whatever, who had all these big corporations and big banks behind her that had been paying mass amounts. So Trump paid for himself completely, and he said, "Nobody owns me. I'm telling you, this is what I'm gonna do. This is exactly what I'm gonna do, and they can't force me to do other stuff because no one paid me. I can just do it."
Okay, sorry, Hillary. Sorry, I was trying to throw an example because I know Trump, big business guy. I didn't know that. So Hillary, yeah. So I agree with I agree with the party system. I know party system, but for me, it's like when that make you kind of feel more alone because everyone here has their. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter if you feel more alone as long as you believe in your views. But I feel like maybe people being belong to a party makes them feel more. Hey, I'm not alone in this country. There's more people out here that share that are part of the same party I do. So maybe it's just a sense of understanding where you belong. But I
think it would increase competition if you could find a way to. It would obviously be way disorganized. I mean, having a no party system, how many fucking candidates could you have, right? Like it would be so disorganized. But if you could find a way to organize that disorganization, just to increase competition and give more choices than just two people, I think it would be better.
Or have more debates. We only have the people run off for Democratic and Republican Party debates every 4 years. Have them go on continuously. We'll have Trump and Mitt Romney run in the next month, and then you have Trump versus someone else. Have the debate continuously going.
Over
Don't
4
wait.
years.
Have a yes. It's that's that's what I'm saying. Maybe also have that. Keep the competition going. Get more candidates in there so you can keep. We'll have a different Republican candidate. Maybe this one from Indiana. Next time from Texas. Get keep the
more early polling to see who people like more. That way, it's more of a simplified process when you get towards the end. That's a good idea.
Because I think when people watch the debates, oh crap, the debates are already on. We got to root for a president. Wait, who does people like more? Oh, people like Hillary more. Okay, I'll vote Hillary. It's you give people time to over 4 years watch all these candidates race against each other and give their views. Over those 4 years, you really watch the person you like and you relate to them. And what, I really like this guy or this girl, and I want them to run. And then you vote for that person. Yeah. So have a more continuous debate system.
And politics should be that like there's a reason why we got to this point is because it was taboo to talk about politics when you're out with your friends or family. People are scared that fights will start. It shouldn't be like that. Politics should be a daily part of our lives. Yeah. And when you ignore politics and just keep it all private and you don't talk to each other, have an open discourse, this is where you end up at each other's throats because it gets to this point of arguing of, you voted for who? What?
We only know about the candidates running for president the last 3 or 4 months of the year of every 4 years. We don't know. Other than that, we don't really know about them unless we see them in the news. We don't know what their views are in the news. We only know what their views are during the debates and stuff like that. But that's only 4 or 5 months of every 4 years.
I think we have to get back to getting to what politics should be, which is electing people that we want to represent us because they have the same goal and they have a certain method of getting to that goal. And we need to talk with our family and friends and just admit to each other, we have the same goal. You want what's best for America. I want what's best for America. We're both good people, right? And you establish it. I would establish commonalities with whoever I'm talking to. And then say, okay, we're both good people. We both want the best. Henceforth, we have the same goal. Let's figure out how to get there. What do you think? Okay, that's what you think. This is what I think. Now, I think what won't work in your method is this. Hey, well, why do you think that? Well, because of this example, this example, and this example. Well, okay, I see what you mean, but what about this part? That's a good point. Okay, well, let's give it a try. Give it a try, doesn't work. Okay, well, you were right. Let's try your method now. This worked, this didn't work. Okay, let's use the part that did work and your part that did work, combine them, better method. I mean, just be more logical about it.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if it's okay, it's okay to have multiple people in the same household vote for different people. Like that should be okay. Like hey, if I want to vote for Barack Obama, but you want to vote for Mitt Romney, it's okay. If you're not racist for voting against Barack
Two of
Obama.
the worst candidates.
They just the tweet first popped in my head. So it's like, and like it should be accepted. Like, okay, you know what? No, I don't really like what Mitt Romney says. I don't really like what Obama says. But you know what? We both want what's best for America. We can understand her. It should be okay to have different views. Like that's where
and also just like getting corruption rooted out of our government would be nice. Yeah. That's the main issue above anything else. So we can trust whoever we're electing. I just think we need term limits on senators and congressmen, right?
Yeah.
And so we get more and more fresh blood in there getting stuff done. And you have to earn what you're doing. You can't just have your own seat forever.
Dude, I think there should be an age limit. I watched some of these Senate. I watched some of these Senate and House Representative people in like 90, like during the time when they were like going over like on Capitol Hill on January 6th, where it got delayed to like 12 a.m. I was watching like 70-year-olds like pass out and shit during this. All I'm like, come on. Like I understand you may be experienced, you know what you're doing, but really. Like we need active people. We need people, not in senior homes. Like we need people.
Yeah, and they could be advisors, right? But you need people who are going to get shit done and do what they promised.
Yeah, I'm not
but
saying.
Again, a lot of these people who are old are usually kind of corrupt, and they're just owned, and their establishment, as Trump would call the swamp, and they're just playing their part. They're just sitting there as a placement, right? And they're just doing what they're told, and that's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think the age limit needs to, because I just tired of watching these old people sleep in the Senate and Congress. It's like, be awake. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like literally, I'm watching an 80-year-old kind of like sitting in the back, like, kind of just dozing off a little bit. Like my dad and I were watching. Like, I'm like, Dad, is this dude sleeping right now? And he goes, he looks a lot like it. I'm like, I know it's like 12 a.m. and you want to get this process over, but come on, like you can be advised. I'm not saying to be completely out of politics. But we need to have just not completely younger people, but people who just get fresh blood in there. Some get these new people in there.
Yeah, and also take the money out of politics, like take away lobbying, and no one should be able to be owned. Like company should be like, you owe us a favor. Like what? Why is that allowed? Like,
the only money those people should be touching is money for their funding, legal funding. For your
it's all
campaign.
Open. You can see who funded him and everything, right? Like
maybe maybe
crowdfunding would be great too. That people have been doing more of that.
Yeah, like back in the day. Hey, I'm running for governor of the city. Knock door to door, raise money as a fundraiser for this upcoming event. Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Work for it and meet the people who are voting for you. Like, get to know them.
Like back in the good days, World War II and shit like that. When people used to wear buttons, and you saw posters and shit. Now it's just Twitter and ad campaigns, and who the fuck knows where your money actually goes to when you donate online. Like who knows?
Yeah, no, it just gets funneled everywhere. Who fucking knows?
Yeah, so
I don't trust anything. A lot of, we've seen all the stories about corrupt charities and shit like that. Like, I don't know. It's sad. It's sad how much corruption there is.
Yeah. And then we were talking about corruption, I think like a week or two ago. I'm fine with rooting out the corruption. We just got to make sure we understand who actually is corrupt. We don't want to go after a politician.
Oh yeah, due process, like make sure who.
Yeah,
undeniably you are corrupt.
Yeah, you're corrupt, but you're actually not. Like you're clean as a whistle. No, but you're corrupt. Yeah, we just got. I agree. We got to drain the swamp, but we need to just due process. Okay, you're corrupt. Get the fuck out. You're not corrupt. We believed you. Okay, we'll do a search. Okay, you're clean. No, you're fine. Move on.
But then again, if you're going through due process and there is so much corruption, and even if what if you're going through a due process system that part of it is corrupt too? So
any bit of corruption.
How deep does it go? That's the problem.
I said we just got to be careful. We don't want to. We
got to get Alex Jones in here talking about the deep state. You know, everyone watching, I wasn't planning, and I don't think Ryan was planning on getting this political in the first podcast either. We were going to talk about some silly things. We just kind of, I mean, it was good though. I think we went on a lot of good tangents. And
I think at the end, if we're gonna figure out who's corrupt, the corruption, figure out who's clean, keep the clean people on our side, and root out the corruption.
I agree. Well, I want to thank Mr. I Am Groot over here, Ryan, for being on my first episode, chairman of the board. And I think it was a good podcast. I had a good time doing it. I'm going to try and do one of these once a week. I'm going to hopefully try and keep to a schedule now that I'm an adult. I think 23 is considered an adult, right? Pretty much an adult.
I think it wasn't like 21 is when you first your body doesn't like. I don't think as a man your body doesn't fully mature as an adult until 30. But I think when you're like
your brain doesn't even fully develop till you're 24. No. I think like your frontal lobe. Or I mean, I'm a man, right? We're both men.
We're men.
We're young men.
Yes.
Young men. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we're both young men. Yes.
I need to actually start getting to a schedule and releasing these. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it to the end, it has been exactly an hour and 20 minutes. So thank you everyone for watching and taking a seat with the chairman. I'll see you in my next podcast.